Dwayne son.
Wake up all the doctors, make the old people well. They're the ones who suffer and who catch all the hell. They don't have so very long before their judgment day. Won't you make them happy before they pass away? Wake up all the builders, time to build a new land. I know we can do it if we all lend a hand. The only thing we have.
All right. Welcome to Truth Forum, a forum to discuss truth in a friendly surrounding like we do at home at the kitchen table. I'm your host, Dr. Smith. We do have the license, the rights to perform the song and the notes and the lyrics. We're licensed by BMI. We'll continue to lead compelling, reliable, and honest conversation. No fake news, y'all, reliable. Guests will be community leaders and professional people and real people whose stories will touch and inspire you. If you'd like to be on the show, if you'd like to continue to call in questions, we'll continue to answer them the best way we know how with the limited knowledge we may have available. Call the office at 269-282-1490 or email us at kingdombuildersworldwide2@gmail.com. The vision remained the same, to catalyze, energize, and bring people together. Like they did in Africa, they sat down and they shared their story. I'm grateful for my staff who've been with me from day one. Producer Tiffany Smith, Ronnie Hoyt, prayer for Carr English, everyone. All is well. And the 2021 recipient, Hall of Fame, my man, Mike Campbell. My son is with me live on Facebook Live. T2, Chanel McClinney, and Yvonne Armstrong is doing what they do on the camera. And my main man, DJ Doug Deacon Jones, is here today. I'm grateful for all of you. Let's close this down. And what's going on, Deacon? What's going on, Deacon?
Oh, nothing, Bishop.
Man, it seems like you've been gone for a long. Everybody been asking about you, man. They said they don't want to see the show without you.
Oh, I don't know if that's true.
Oh,
but,
man.
The show must go on whether I'm here or not.
Yeah, well, we had our friend Terrence Todd on last week.
Yes, I did.
Yeah,
and I seen part of the show.
You did?
Yeah, it was on my phone. That was at work.
And I think, Terrence, because you was on the show, I had somebody ask me, Bishop, are you a Republican? And will you answer live on the show? Mm-hmm. I don't know if I'm going to get to that point.
Okay.
But we are going to try to look at some questions. I want to tell all of you all, thank you very much for your support. And I want to thank you all for sending in certain questions. I privately, I'm not sure how y'all do that. I don't always get your name, but you ask certain questions. And so I took those questions today, and I'm going to try to answer the question. I even had someone ask us, do they teach Black history? And since we got, one more week left, Deacon, and we'll be going into March, I figured we'll spend a little time talking about Black history as well. So let's just try to, get involved in the show, and let's try to communicate. My man Deacon got the phone back again, so if you'd like to chime in, you are more than welcome. Hey, a special prayer for my man, Mr. Bobby Dean. Pray for him. Bobby Dean plays a very special place in my heart. He was like one of the first mentors back in the late 60s, early 70s. He was our hockey team. All African-American, we said Black then, hockey team, where we played floor hockey. And it was called Dean's Blackhawk. And he was the coach. Him and Morris Fullerton was one of the people that really was in my life when I was coming up. We played baseball with Morris Fullerton and Bobby Dean. So please say a prayer for my man, Bobby Dean. Deacon, what's going on in your world, man, before we get started?
Oh, not much, Bishop. I know after church today there was a dinner in honor of Pastor Perry's birthday.
Absolutely.
And Mother Howard cooked some slammin' salmon.
Slammin'? They call it slammin' salmon. I like slammin' salmon.
And Sister Yvonne Armstrong, she cooked the bomb dressing.
The bomb
Oh,
dressing.
my goodness.
Man, that stuff was like
delicious.
prayer. That was called like heaven prayer food.
It was delicious.
Man, that was good.
She did an excellent
Good. So we are grateful for all of you, and thank you very much for those who came to break bread and fellowship with Pastor Perry. My biological uncle had a wonderful day today, and we were just excited. So thank you, Deacon, for bringing that up. All right, Deacon, let's go ahead and get to the point. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, first of all, throw some things out. Always going to need you involved in some of these questions. So someone asked the question, is Bloomberg trying to buy the black community? I'm going to try to address that in a minute, but not now. They asked me, do I think Donald Trump, who I believe pardoned like 11 people, why has he not pardoned Kwame? He was the mayor in Detroit. Mm-hmm. So I need to look into all of those things. Then someone sent me this little note that says, after murdering, enslaving, and raping millions of them, we brutally converted them into Christians, told them that God was white, and if they ever wanted to meet him, they had to forgive us for everything we did to them, and they did. Some of them even fight to defend our false religion. My response to that is just because those are things that people say happen, if I take this personally, I know the color of God. He's a spirit. There is no color. And if we had to give a color of Jesus or Yeshu, Hamashiach, they'll say, he is a person of color, geographically, historically, and about being converted into Christians. My belief system on what a Christian is may be different from yours. I call myself a member in the kingdom of God. And so when people make statements like that, murdering, enslaving, raping the millions, that was all historical truth. But that does not have to define you. And,
right.
And I think, Deacon, before we go further, we as a people need to understand just because certain things did happen, that doesn't have to justify our behavior to continue to propagate that behavior. Would you not agree with that?
I agree with that. I think people use that as an excuse, and they want to make it seem like this is how it was and this is what was meant to be. It has nothing to do with genealogy or anything else, but you can always change your future. You don't have to dwell on the past and use it as an excuse to act out or be a certain way in the future.
Yeah, and I feel the same way. So thank you. But let's talk about. I personally have no tolerance for racism. I'm going to throw out some things, and we're going to get Deacon to reply, and maybe some of you all may chime in. I try to identify it. This is all based upon Black History Month. I try to address it. I try to confront it. So why Black History matter? Not just to me, but also to you. Before I go deep into this, Deacon, when you think of Black history, what's the thought behind, in your mind, and the importance of it?
Black history is one of the ways to recognize what black people did and how they contributed to society, how they contributed to who we are today. There's a lot of black inventors. There's a lot of important black people that did things back in the day, like, and that have helped invent peanut butter, the stoplight, I was talking to a young lady the other day, giving her a ride to school, and I asked her, did she know who Crispus Attucks was? And she had no idea who that was. And so I kind of explained it to her, and she was, amazed at what happened in the story behind that. Jackie Robinson, she didn't know who Jackie was. So when we were in school, we were in high school, we had black history and black literature. Black history is taught in school, but it's not a curriculum. It's not a subject. It's just snippets put into history when kids go to class. So it's not an actual class, but it is addressed, but not like it should be.
Okay, so let's go further into this. I know Black Lives Matter, and that have occupied the central ground to race and politics in recent times for sure, and it certainly got everyone's attention. But it, as Deacon said, it's appreciation of our history that help us to understand the relevance. So Black history allow us to appreciate our history and to understand the relevance. So with that being said, when you think of the Black, Deacon, and I want everybody that's listening to me to kind of think about it, the words you say, black, 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 black. How does that make you feel when you hear that? Just those four? Black, black, black. All of you that's listening to me today, and you're watching me live, and you will be listening to the pre-recording message, and some of you always see it on the actual channel. What happens on the inside of you, Deacon?
Are you referring to?
No, just that. Black, 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 black. How you feel when you hear that?
I feel like somebody's trying to emphasize the word black.
Okay. Does it develop any emotions?
No, not at all.
Some say that the trouble started when color people turned into black people.
Colored people turn into black people.
Yeah. And the history is written, by the oppressors.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
History is written by the former slave masters.
So how do we get labeled colored for what? Where did that come in?
Well, you know what? I can talk about that, but let me see. Let me try to go a little further because that's a good question. I think someone even asked that question, where did color come from? But what does it mean to be a black boy who's raised in a culture dominated by the myth of America? Now listen, this is for you, Deacon, and for you that's listening, the world where blacks are almost 30 times to be stopped and searched than white people, a world that black people are 3 times likely to be arrested than white people, a world that black people are 44% more likely to be detained than white people, a world where black people are 3 times likely to be unemployed than white people, we're somewhere between the mad and the bad. When you hear that, black, 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 being a black man, now how does that make you feel when I gave you some relevant data?
Well, being a young black person in the world today, it seems like there's a lot more challenges. And black kids today are influenced, I think, in a negative way. And sometimes they go by what they see.
Okay.
They're not going by what they've been taught. And I think our generation has kind of maybe dropped the ball a little bit in educating our young black men on who we are and where we're going.
Okay.
So a lot of kids don't know how to react and respond. I'm not saying that, some incidents where young black people were stopped, they probably could have changed the situation if they would have acted different.
Okay.
It's not right. I'm not justifying anything at all. However, sometimes you have to use your head versus using your anger.
Okay. And again, I'm just using the history of black history first. This is what we're being shared. School gave us a world where, and Deacon, you can tell me or being transparent, and you that's listening to me, let's be honest. School gave us a world where Africa was a small part of the world map, whereas Africa is a continent, and it's bigger than America. But in the world map, for years when I was coming up, America appeared to look bigger than Africa. All right? That's what you're taught. There's this dark continent where they all lived in mud huts, and they traveled by trees, and white Tarzan was the king of the jungle. Now come on, think about that, Deacon. We grew up, and we have evolved. And these younger children don't have to experience that. But think about it. How did white Tarzan become the king of the jungle?
That's a good question.
In Africa.
Well, there's a white man's one that actually put him there. Because it wasn't us.
Okay, see, so I'm showing you, and then you got, Christianity stepped in, our salvation, and the history we learned was the shame of slavery This is what we were taught, and we were constantly reminding that our own black people assisted in the process of our historical enslavement. So this is why black history, people. This is why black history is important. The civil rights movement in the 60s and the 70s, you know, that woke me up. You know, that allowed me to look at things. You know, you have folks like Alex Haley, you know, the author of Roots, you know, Eldridge Cleaver. You know, these are men, names, and people that we heard. Bobby Seale, okay? Angela Davis. Matter of fact, Angela Davis spoke just recently. Huey Newton. Those were the first step toward change, you know? And change is awareness and the knowledge of black history, but it must make sense, see? And so that's important that we understand that. Sensitive to some, but great importance to others. We talk about, Terrence and I talked about this last week, and you and I would jump into this week. Blacks are rising and taking over industry. And so instead of us looking at the negative part of black history and black history is not doing anything, I want the young people and I want your children to sit down at your feet and listen and let them know that blacks are rising and taking over industry such as music, media, real estate, or oil. And if you're not, then get in it. See, that's important. Since they were oppressed as slaves for many years, white Americans and European. See, Deacon, we can continue to talk about what happened, but let's celebrate those who made it, those who came out of it. Only a few of them managed to break that cycle. And when I say break that cycle, I'm talking about that billionaire status. If one person can break that cycle, then Deacon, that says you have hope.
Exactly.
And we got to utilize that. We should not degrade that person who broke that cycle. All that whole concept about they were inferior because of their skin color. They broke that cycle. We can't keep, using that. It's 2020. My skin color. I'm not inferior. We don't have to go into that battle anymore. I don't have to fight anybody about being inferior. It's taking a lot longer than it should, but we're making it.
Right.
See, we already know that, Deacon. Yes, it's taking a lot longer than it should, but we have examples of people that has made it. Some black people are very wealthy. They're respectable businessmen.
Or women.
Women. Teachers, they're doctors, they're lawyers, they're artists, and of course, our president.
Who?
Our president.
Oh, okay, him.
I'm saying all that we have already accomplished. When you talk about black history, let's share those things. They bring great value. They put up hard work to prove themselves. And Deacon, that is the key. Every black person that is successful put in hard work. So if we teach a generation to be lazy, we're putting ourselves back into slavery.
Absolutely. One billionaire that comes to mind is, Michael Jordan. Of course, he made his money in basketball, but there's been hundreds of basketball players who have made millions that didn't do anything with their money. He made all the right choices.
Matter of fact, as you mentioned that, he made $90 million playing basketball, but his corporate partnership, Gatorade, Just Do It, Nike, Wheaties, was worth about $1 billion, and so was his ownership stake in the basketball team Charlotte Hornets. That's what I'm talking about. He became a millionaire through his labor, but became a billionaire owning capital. That's black history, Deacon. That's the kind of stuff we need to talk about. You got inspirational men, such as Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., Muhammad Ali. I'm for sure you can mention all kinds of names. So why don't you go online and start sharing? type in some other names so you can start letting the people in the feed sheet. And while we're doing this, I want to first of all thank you for your support, but I also just want to inform you we're going to be, I don't they call it a YouTube channel. I got an opportunity to do a YouTube channel, and we're going to be asking you, I think you're supposed to subscribe. And we'll talk more about it. So I'm going to be asking you, a lot of you are watching the show. I don't know how you can come on and then disappear, but there's a count. So thank you for your support. But I'm asking you in the future to start subscribing if you're enjoying the content, because we want to continue to bring enlightening information to you. But you got great men, so give me some historical men and women in Black history. Just Google their names, or not, just shout their names out. I've already said Malcolm X. I've already said Martin Luther King. I've already said Muhammad Ali. I've already said Barack Obama. Those are great men, great women. I guess Harriet Tubman. All those names you can mention. They learned from something. They had racism, but guess what? They understand that's only a cloud our minds to prevent us from seeing truth, potential, and true talent. It took me some time, Deacon, to get that. But to me, when I get caught up in that fight about somebody not liking me, all that does is stop me from my true potential. Mm-hmm. And we got to start teaching that to our people. So what? They called you a name. Right. So what? They made fun of you. So what? They picked on you. That doesn't give you a right to walk off your job. Right. Quit what you're doing because somebody called you out your name. Mm-hmm. Are we allowed to say nigger on this TV show?
We just did.
Oh. I really wouldn't care if they called me that. Right. Because I do know there are blacks that call us that too, right? Right. Okay. Right. So, Deacon, why is it wrong for you to say it, but a white person can't say it?
Well, I might say it. I might say it in jest. I might say it as, in a joke.
Are you serious?
Way.
You really said that word?
I might be referring to something or having a conversation. I don't call somebody.
Yeah, it's hard for me to believe you said that word. Not you. Not you.
But however, it doesn't seem right when a black person hears a white person say it, because there is there's a negative intent.
Is it?
In that. That's the way black people see it.
You think younger generation even know that?
No. They don't see it that way.
Right, so.
They don't see it that way, but our generation, absolutely. Well, some younger generations, yeah, they do. So if they were on the job and somebody on the job, a coworker or a boss, said that, of course it's going to make them mad.
And then what? So what? They called your name.
Right.
I mean, so what? They called your name. What does that got to do with you having a career? One thing what that Dr. King did, he created in a way that legally you get yourself in trouble.
A lot of young people don't know how to handle that, or just people in general. And, the automatic response would be to lash out, or, to go to human resources, or to walk off the job, instead of, using their mind and using their head. And not saying that they shouldn't go report something like that, but it's a respect kind of thing. You disrespecting me by calling me that. You're not treating me like a man. You look at me like I'm some kind of an animal.
Again, so what?
Right. And I'm just saying.
Again, Deacon, I'm saying I got a wife, I got children, I got grandchildren, I got a mortgage, I got a car note. So what? Somebody called me out my name, because if they call me out my name and I did not give them the permission, so what?
Right, it's easier said than done. I understand what you're saying, Bishop.
Okay.
I do.
Okay.
I'm talking about others that don't see it that way.
So Black history should teach us. They threw rocks at Dr. King. Absolutely. What did he do?
Absolutely.
What did he do?
He just turned the other cheek.
He kept on going.
Sure did.
They threw him in prison. Yeah. He kept on going. He was fighting for a cause, and to this day, there's a national holiday for him, and he helped change the conscience of the same people that called him a nigger, mm-hmm. and the same people that tried to kill him. Right. They change, mm-hmm. and I believe people change.
Absolutely.
We got to get past that, Deacon.
Absolutely.
And I think when we get past that, we'll be better off. So, that's amazing how that word can just get people off track. Mm-hmm. Folks say every other ungodly word. Right. And they don't think there's no condemnation. But they say that word, they think they said the worst curse word in the word. Mm-hmm. And it really just means stingy. In the English Western word, that word means stingy. And that could be any race. Okay?
Right.
All right, all right. So we talked about extremely wealthy people. And, you know, for all of my black conscious people, you talk about, you know, history. We talk about, you know, this. Are you aware of Mansa Musa? Are you aware that he was the ruler of the Mali Empire? It's spelled M-A-N-S-A, M-U-S-A. He was the ruler of the Mali Empire. He controlled one of the largest sources of gold. His wealth was so legendary, his image was printed on one of the important medieval maps. That's how wealthy he was. Black man. I guarantee you a lot of folks never knew that. See, so history is about understanding. And you mentioned about Michael Jordan. What did we learn from Michael Jordan? He was more than just a basketball player. He was an individual that went through the challenge, went through racism, went through discrimination, but he had the talent and the privilege to play at the top of his game. He realized his human capital, Deacon, meaning he's going to get old, was going to end, and he paid attention, and now he's a billionaire because he's making money off of capital. Black history is teaching other people to better themselves. Right. It's not a time just to get angry and to divide. And I really encourage, I wish all the non-blacks would really gather together and really empower black history. Not so much of just another program talking about what this one did, what that did. It should be empowering people.
Right. I agree.
So we talked about this with Dr. Todd on, Deacon. Capital is anything you own, okay? Keyword is own, right?
Right.
Capital is anything you own. It's 2020. How many black folks own something? We don't have an answer to that, but that's where we need to go to. All this speech and talking and trying to impress people, showing off. Listen, everybody, capital is anything you own that can make you money. So a house can be capital. Now here comes racism. If you're paying attention to this show, you have a decent credit score, you have good time on your job, and you go into the bank and they turn you down, you should contact me or contact other leaders, because that's where racism come in at. Because you now have the power, banker, to empower a person to own something. Right. There's no reason to have to live unless they choose to live in apartments or condos or rent for a period of time. But if they want to become an owner and they have got their credit score where it needs to be, and they have proven they have a track record, then empower these people so they can own a house, because that's capital. That's Black History, Deacon. Yes. Getting people to understand that. Stocks, that's capital. You got people in their jobs. Jobs gives you stock, correct? Right. That's capital. See, capital is something you can also pass down. What are some of the free things that you get, Deacon, and you can't pass it down in this social lifestyle that we live in? What are some of the free things that the government gives us that we can't pass down, and we fight for it?
Some of the free things that we get from the government.
Yeah, maybe you don't get it. What's some of the free stuff we get, or at least discounts?
You talking about like EBT, stuff like that?
Yeah, whatever. Talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Well,
it's free stuff, right? Or it's assistance, right?
It's a system.
Yeah.
There's a system that they, try to provide for people who are underprivileged.
And you can't what?
And you can't pass it down.
You can't pass it down?
Nobody can inherit that. And a lot of people get comfortable, and because it's a means of survival, and that's all it is. They're not trying to get ahead.
Why? What can we do to try to get ahead, Deacon?
You got to educate people, and but if they don't listen, they're not going to be educated. So how do you reach a generation and teach them what you just said?
Yeah.
Am I the one? Will they listen to someone like me or listen to someone like you? Or do you have to bring in a Michael Jordan or Oprah Winfrey to reach people? How do you reach that generation to get them to think the way that you think?
I don't know. Maybe we have to bring in some younger people, and maybe they can give us some answers.
Successful businessmen.
Yeah, maybe so.
Businesswomen.
So again, I'm giving you some things, y'all, that's called capital. Something that you're able to truly, make money. Stock. Okay? Patents. Things are patents. When you patent things like drugs and technology, copyrights. Those are all things that can produce revenue while you're resting,
Right.
while you're sleeping. See, listen, everybody, you're not going to earn $1 million or $1 billion pulling down just a regular income and paying income taxes. It's not going to happen. It's all about ownership. That's where wealth is created. Most wealthy people make their money like everyone else. Two ways, Deacon. You make it by labor and you make it by capital. God give us 10. Let's say we got 70 years. How long can you labor and live a good life? You got to eventually turn that thing over to capital. And the richer a person get, the less income they make from labor, they now making it from capital. That's the message. That's the Black History message. And as I said on Sunday today, like Martin Luther King, I may not get there, but I'm guarantee you my children will get to the point when they come into this world, they're ahead of the game.
Right. You have a lot of people that don't understand delayed gratification. They look at, tomorrow.
Say that again, delayed gratification. I like that.
Delayed gratification.
Break that down to the audience.
Delayed gratification is you're looking at the big picture.
Yep.
You're looking at the future. You're not worried about tomorrow. You're not worried about instant gratification or instant enjoyment. It's like going to college.
She says your mic, nigga. Something about your mic. Get close to you. Go ahead.
Okay. It's like getting a college education. Once you finish that 4, 6, or 8-year degree, there's something that's waiting for you on the other side of that. Instead of just say working a job and wanting to buy a new car, wanting to buy a house, at some point you have to be able to be patient and get the things that you're entitled to, instead of just trying to hurry up and get it now.
Right.
A lot of people don't understand that delayed gratification, and in the future, it will pay off.
Yeah.
For you, possibly your grandkids,
Yeah.
and your grandkids' kids,
Yeah.
and so on and so forth.
Yeah. But you can't even put money away.
Right.
You can't even save if your whole life is about right now.
Right.
If everything is about today, you don't have money to put away.
Right. Absolutely.
And then tomorrow's going to come.
Right.
And you have nothing. I also was thinking in Black History, Deacon, it is to promote the knowledge of Black history, and you will be surprised. You won't be surprised because you've been with me, but many of you will be surprised to what people don't know. To some people, a lot of folks did not know that Egypt was in Africa. You'd be amazed at a lot of folks that don't know that.
Right.
And they think it was somewhere in Asia somewhere, because you have these white images of all these princes and kings, etc. The contribution of what Black people have done, the reason why we teach it in Black history is because it should influence people's perception. So when the question was asked to me, is it taught in the public schools? I'm not really sure, but we don't just want a little bit. We want a curriculum that's going to help influence people's perception of what Black people are capable of doing and heighten the confidence of Black people.
You're saying Black history or Black literature?
Black literature and history.
It's not taught in the public school.
Oh, it's not. Okay.
Like I said, there's bits and pieces of it
Right.
history
Throughout.
as they go to class.
Yes.
In those history classes.
Yes, okay.
There is no just single class or curriculum for Black
I got you.
There is.
And I'm saying if it's going to be taught, we need to make sure it's about influencing the perception of what Black people are capable of and the heightening and the confidence of Black people. That's so important. I got some mini facts I want to share with you that's listening to me, and I want y'all to think about this. These are mini facts that have actually occurred. In 1840, Deacon, the U.S. Census Bureau reported 6,000 free Blacks as slaveholders. Now watch this. The state of Delaware and Kansas enacted laws to stop blacks from being slave holders since it gave them the status quo equal to white slaveholders. Now, that was in 1840. See, when you have people like me that's going to do my due diligence, this is why I don't get alarmed to what I see in 2020. Mm-hmm. Some things are just a recurrence. So that's why I don't get so angry. People get angry because that's the first experience. But when you understand who you are, you good.
Right.
I don't expect nothing from nobody. But if I get something, I'm going to tell them thank you. You know what I mean? I'm in a key position, Deacon, to be able to walk into a bank and get the same kind of amount of money that someone else may get, but they won't give it to me. I don't even take it personal anymore. Because it's not that they won't give it to me because they can't, it's because what you gonna do with it.
Right.
See, racism becomes the issue when you start empowering people to think for themselves and to produce and function without needing somebody else's help.
Right.
Everybody that's dependent on a system is in actuality still in service.
That's true.
So, do you truly want to free me, or do you want to just keep me happy? Here's another one, Deacon. Many facts. Of approximately 850 free blacks living in New Orleans, Louisiana, during the Civil War, more than 642 were free black slave holders. They formed 2 full regiments of black soldiers to fight with the Southern Confederacy to preserve slavery. December 24, 1865, the day before Christmas, the Ku Klux Klan, KKK, was organized in Pulaski, Tennessee, to resist Reconstruction and bestowing of civil rights on black ex-slaves. See, that's our history. Has people changed? Absolutely. But there's a reason why the oppression, that's the things that should be taught in history, but it's not.
Right.
It got to be taught fairly. So if we truly want to empower people, we must give, as the Bible says, the whole roll. Think about this, Deacon. When you hear the word Uncle Tom, what's the first thing you think of?
Well, the first thing that, society has put into our heads, when you see that, is a black person that favors white people.
Yes, that's Uncle Tom, right?
Right.
Everybody, when you hear the word Uncle Tom, oh, he's an Uncle Tom. Oh, he's a sellout. He's an Uncle Tom. He's a sellout. It was not until 1940 that the term Uncle Tom acquired its current derogatory meaning of this submissive, compromising black man. When the reality was, it was Sambo. Sambo was the one that actually told the master where the slaves were, told the master what everything was doing. Uncle Tom was kind of submissive, but he was trying to protect the black people.
Right.
Isn't that amazing how history does things? So with that being said, you mentioned earlier about we also have some inventors. The three-way, you mentioned, the three-way traffic light and the gas mask was invented by Garrett Augustus Morgan, black man.
Yep.
Right there. The Three Musketeers, the book, the film, and the play by Alexandre Dumas, a black man. The blood bank you mentioned, we depend so much on for our health. Charles Drew, even the good tire, Robert F. Fleming Jr., and the lawnmower deacon, John Albert Byrd. Many would try to, debunk the information with this myth and say, well, it wasn't true. Just like when Napoleon smashed the nose of the Sphinx in the early Egyptian statue. Why? To try to erase the history of African civilization and color. See, we know stuff happened, but I don't live in the past by being angry. I don't live in the past by disliking people. I'm going forward because history has a way of repeating itself if you dwell on it. Forget those things which are behind. It doesn't mean we ignore it happen, but to stop and dwell on it. So y'all, Black history need to be a time of motivating, inspiring, and building up people.
Do you think, I don't know if a Black history class would fit in a school like, say, maybe Lakeview or Penfield or any other school that it doesn't have a large population of minorities, because how many kids would actually take that class? It would be nice to see non-whites take Black history so they can learn about part of history too, because it's part of their history also.
Right.
So it is part of the problem because you don't have a teacher, somebody with a degree that has a passion to go to the schools and say, I would like to teach this curriculum.
Because they may not think it's important.
You know,
They may not think it's important.
I would like to know what has to happen in order for that to happen.
Well, let me ask you this, Deacon. The historical colleges. My son went to one. The what they call it, HBCU.
Yeah.
And a lot of schools, and this ain't no plug, and y'all, this does not answer my question. I'll get to your question. I'm not answering the question by the statement I'm about to say. But Deacon, a lot of colleges are suffering, right? Financially. Your president gave some money to them schools and kept it going.
Yep.
What's your think about that?
I think it's a good thing.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's a policy.
Yes.
Does that mean I'm going to support him? I ain't saying nothing. Does that mean I'm going to vote for him? I'm not answering that question. But that's a policy.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know who else did that. Now, y'all, don't get me wrong. Don't start going off, oh, Bishop, he must be a Republican. He must be a Trumper. All I'm saying is he gave some money to the school, y'all. Dog. Come on. That's all I'm saying. And so why not celebrate that? Well, his motives, who cares? He did something. There's a lot of our children that can stay in school because of some funds.
Right.
Now, I know some of y'all are not going to agree with that. Deacon, have you heard of that whole myth about happy slaves back in the day? Being a happy slave, meaning you were just happy to be a slave and you weren't trying to be free?
Not too familiar.
You weren't trying to be free?
Remember.
They used to teach that, slaves were happy, they weren't trying. How many times did you see in history that slaves were trying to be free? I mean, who did you hear about that was trying to run away? We watched movies, and they said, well, why didn't they just run away? You saw Kunta trying to run away until his toe got cut off, and then we got Nat Turner.
Right.
But who else did that?
Well, they're scared.
So my point was, you don't have too much history of any slave revolts, do we?
Right.
No, we don't.
Right.
You kind of learn how to be in your place. Well, let me talk about that because this is still part of your Black history. Contrary to the myth promoted by pro-slavery that forces, historical records indicates that blacks were anything but happy-go-lucky slaves. Throughout all of my research, I did not see those slaves being happy. The happy slave myth was fabricated to suggest that slavery was the natural state for blacks who had no interest in overthrowing their white master. And so all throughout, we'll say, dog, why don't they run? And we were taught, well, they're happy. They're content. Now think about what that does to your psyche. You're being abused, but you're content. You're being degraded, but you content. There were claims that blacks had a genetic internal disposition that made them ideally suited to be slaves. Some folks were taught that. Well, you perfect to be a slave. So to ensure that the reality was always consistent with the myth, the dominant society maintained laws, public policies, social customs that label blacks as being the apathetic type of people, but punished them for being aggressive and assertive. Isn't that something that now, being aggressive and assertive, what is it about you being an angry black man versus an intelligent black man? Isn't it something when I raise my voice, I'm considered aggressive and assertive? Well, then, if you were aggressive and assertive, you was put in your place. Is that maybe why we're passive people? I mean, we have people that tell you all the time, hey, bring it down some.
Right. I just think, aggression can be aggressiveness
and assertive.
Can't be misunderstood. And it's really passion.
But they were taught not to be aggressive.
Right.
Or assertive.
Right. But it's just who we are as a people.
But is that why we're not all aggressive? There's some stuff, y'all, we tolerate we shouldn't.
Right.
We'll be aggressive with our own people, but we ain't said nothing to Uncle.
Right. I think some of it is, they think maybe it won't get them anywhere. If they go against the grain or show that their aggressiveness may be looked at in a negative way, it's going to make things worse. So they say, wait, they don't say anything.
And so they go nowhere.
Go nowhere. I'm the opposite. If I see something that's wrong or that's not right, even on my job, even my boss always said, he didn't know how to manage black people. And one time he came to me and he said, I need you to help me because there's somebody in the department I don't understand. And I appreciate the fact that he asked me that. It was another black woman, and she had a certain way to communicate. And he was really trying to learn who she was. And so we had a 45-minute conversation on black people. And it helped him understand. I think it made him a little bit better. But now he understands me a little more. So when I say something, sometimes I'm animated and I talk with my hands. I'm not being aggressive.
Right.
I'm just expressing my passion. So he understands it. So a lot of it is black people have to be educated about themselves. And sometimes you have to educate other people in return, too.
Okay. Well, this whole teaching was taught that we must keep them to be non-aggressive and non-assertive. And I'm afraid that that's why maybe that person didn't get that job. Maybe that's why you didn't get that interview. Maybe that's why you didn't get that opportunity, because your aggressiveness or your assertiveness came off as being fearful. Mm-hmm. And anytime that slave man rose up, they would have to kill him because it looked like he was trying to revolt. So they were mentally taught, just be cool. How many times are we being cool and missing out on everything? See, if nothing else, y'all, we have to understand why we do what we do. There's this notable quote that says, if a landowner cheated or beat his black tenant, that is his business. If a black is the victim of white violence, he must have done something to deserve it. Above all, the black must be kept in his place. That's black history, y'all. That was a teaching that was embedded in so many of our people. But today, y'all, we celebrate an independence of freedom. This is not a lesson that make you despise anybody else. It should make a lesson to allow you to be proud of who you are and to grow and to develop. So black history does more than ticket the box of accomplishments. It provides us with a sense of who we are and therefore who we can be. So Deacon, I was asked today about Dwayne Wade. I was asked a week ago about Dwayne Wade. I shared about his daughter or about his son. Zari or Zaya, I'm not sure of the name. But before I share with the audience my take on it, first of all, Dwayne Wade was a heck of a basketball player. Mm-hmm. One of the best. Can you imagine how many sons wanted to be the son of his? Can you imagine how many boys wanted to be his son?
There's quite a few.
Quite a few. And then his son decide to say that I want to be a girl. what kind of wisdom you got on this, Deacon? Because I know you know, we very passive. We don't want to say too much, and we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. So what's your take on this?
Well,
That's the responsibility of a leader and being on a talk show. Rush Limbaugh said his stuff. Don't nobody say a word.
right.
And then he mess around and get the whole award, while the 900-year-old man sitting there didn't get nothing but a attaboy.
Right.
He got the what's called a presidential medal. Yeah.
Yep.
And all the stuff he said.
Right.
Because somebody believed in his truth.
Right.
All right? So, Deacon, if you don't say nothing, we'll never know. So what's your take about it, Deacon?
Well, I think at some point in that young man's life, he had experience, whether it was an influence or whatever it was, made him decide that he wanted to be a girl. I don't think has anything to do with Dwayne, and maybe not his mom, Gabrielle. However, that's a very tough subject. It's a tough situation. I don't know exactly where Dwayne is wholeheartedly on that. That's all I'm going to say. I don't know if my true beliefs on that subject would be accepted here on television. So I'm going to refrain from answering that question any further.
like you running for president.
Okay. I have some interest.
He's running for president.
I have some
you guys.
interest
You're right, right.
that I have to think about.
That's right. You need some votes. Absolutely.
No.
Oh, I
okay,
got you. I got you.
I have to be careful what I say.
Oh no, I know. I agree. We all do.
It could affect my future.
We all.
If you know what I mean.
We all do.
Okay.
We all do. We all do. So Bishop, what is your response? So you know, you guys put us in these tight positions because you ask us, but then that's our responsibility on the talk show. So let me tell you my belief. I'm going to always fall back on the Word of God. If you didn't have a chance to hear the message that I preached today, I covered it very briefly. But first of all, the Bible says in Proverbs 22:6, train up a child in the way that he should go. The Bible doesn't say train up a child in the way that they want to go. So as a parent, I just believe you should just train your child in the way that you feel that child's supposed to go. I'll leave it at that. I'll be like Deacon, and I'm going to just stay quiet on that also. But that y'all wanted me to ask that question, so I wanted to bring that up. Then you guys asked me, do I feel that Bloomberg is buying the black votes? Now, first of all, have you followed him at all, Bloomberg?
A little bit.
A little bit? Mm-hmm. He got a lot of commercials out with a lot of black people.
Yes.
But when you hear that statement, this is my response. That makes us look like we don't have no sense. How can somebody buy us?
Right. I just think he's trying to just get the influence of the people. You know, statistically, black folks aren't following Donald Trump. That's
Okay.
a huge piece of the population.
Okay.
A lot of people of color. So Bloomberg is just trying to tap into that base. I don't think he's trying to buy black people. I mean, how can you buy a black person? I mean, you can buy their vote, if that's what they mean.
Right.
But, I mean, however, in my opinion, I think he's probably got the best chance against Donald Trump. That's just my opinion.
Deacon, I agree with you. I agree with Deacon, y'all. I agree that Bloomberg has a better chance. You got two billionaires. I know one of my good friends, Jose, don't agree with me because you mentioned, and then I appreciate your comments, Jose, because you've been in New York or you say you're from New York. I respect that. You know Donald Trump. You know his policies, and I respect you for that, and I thank you for sharing the knowledge that you gave me. And so you probably got good information about Bloomberg as well. But if we just deal with an even match, you know, pound to pound, like a boxer, Bloomberg seemed like the better person, and that's why if you notice, and I'm not going to answer if I'm a Republican or Democrat, but if you notice right now that if it's the Republicans that's talking bad about Bloomberg because they really don't want Bloomberg to win.
Absolutely don't.
You know, I
They
think
don't.
Donald Trump, his personality gonna wear the rest of them out.
Mm-hmm.
But you got two billionaires in New York, from New York, same little game they playing. That'd be a better fight.
Right. And all Bloomberg is doing what politicians do.
He's a politician.
Yeah.
But the word become quid pro quo, which I talked about today. Hey, y'all, the bottom line is I got 5 minutes. The bottom line is this. If you want politicians to do what you want done, then you need to, support them. Am I a Republican? I am not a Republican. So let the record reflect, I am not a Republican. Are you a Democrat? I am not a Democrat. So let the record reflect, I am not a Democrat. Are you an independent? I am not an independent. I am not a Green person. I'm not a Tea Party person. So Bishop, what are you? I'm an individual with my unalienable rights, and I take advantage of the freedom of choice to pick people who I feel is best for the people who I represent. And any politician, anyone, you can come on the show, you can share your platform, you can share your views. We will never disrespect you. We will never talk down to you. You are welcome to come on the show as we get close to November because we want the world to hear, or this city to hear, your views. Because in the general election, it's nonpartisan, you vote for whoever you want. Mm-hmm. In the August primary, you got to decide. So that's where I'm at on that. I want to thank you all for listening to us. Again, continue to chime in privately and let us know some of the things you want us to talk about. Deacon and I is going to format this show. We're going to be calling certain people in to share their story and to share their political views because you know, Deacon, this is going to be a real big race. Mm-hmm. This is probably going to be the biggie. Yep. Because a lot of people, this is going to be big. You have a president that was impeached, and then you have him that may possibly win. Oh, someone asked me, what about the mayor in Detroit, Kwame? Well, why Donald Trump hasn't freed Bill Cosby? I mean, the bottom line is they got the power to free who they want to free, you guys. That goes back to that quid pro quo, you know. They haven't really, I guess they ain't buddies. Right. If I was president, I'll free DJ. I'll free my family. But if I don't like you, I probably won't free you neither. Right. So at the end of the day, y'all, that's the answer I have for that. It's all about the position you in. So put yourself in position. Get yourself empowerment so you may do something powerful and something great. All right, Deacon, go ahead and give me the last word before we dismiss in prayer tonight. And welcome back, man. Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you, Bishop. It's just nice to be back on the show again, entertaining the Facebook family. And just hopefully we have a good 2020.
Yep. Again, y'all like to end the show by always acknowledging my ancestors. Again, we had a chance to celebrate with our uncle, 64, I believe he said. Mm-hmm. Wonderful day, wonderful food, wonderful cake. Oh, man. Deacon, I'll probably go home and eat something right now. Pray for me. I'm starting my diet tomorrow. Okay. With God's help. Praise Jesus. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Yvonne. But I give honor to our ancestors. I thank God for my mom's father, Leo Del Perry Sr., and my mom's mother, my grandmother, of course, Ruby Elizabeth Perry. And, of course, my mother, who's with us today, alive and well, and we love her. She's going to be celebrating her birthday as well on March 16th, right around the corner. Hallelujah celebration. And on my father's side, Gussie Smith and Edward West Smith, as y'all know I got my name from, and my father, the late, great Hugh Daniel Smith Sr. I was one of those individuals that said, when somebody died, I'll just move on. But I found myself, Deacon, having conversation with him more than ever before. Mm-hmm. I just kind of talked to him, and I kind of figured this is how my dad will respond. He's been with me through some real tough moments. and it's a good thing.
All right.
So that may be strange, y'all, but it does work. Doesn't mean you bring them back to life and all that crazy myth, but just thinking about who he is and think about the memories, think about what they would say when you're in a situation, those memories. So what am I saying? Create memories with your loved ones while they're alive, so those memories can help you when they pass on. Amen, somebody. All right, let's pray, Deacon. Father, we thank you for your love. We thank you for your kindness. We thank you for this day. We thank you for this show. We thank you for the city of Battle Creek. We thank you for our mayor. We thank you for our city manager. We thank you for our chief of police, chief of the fire department. We thank you for our principals. We thank you for our board of directors, all those that's in leadership to make this city a better place. We thank you for AccessVision. We thank you for the camera crew. We thank you for everybody, for without people, we can do nothing. But most importantly, help us learn the will of God so we may fulfill your glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All the doctors make the old people well. They're the ones who suffer and who catch all the hell. They don't have so very long before that judgment day. Won't you make them